That is the argument that keeps going on, is that you need this, you can't have an authority, so the Roman Catholics claim, that doesn't have external validation that can be called infallible.
Right.
And that sounds really good on the surface until you start backing up the question one notch. So if Scripture requires external validation for us to receive its authority, and its authority is determined by the church, then where does the church receive its external validation from?
Right.
And this is where the real problem comes into play, in my opinion, is, if we always needed an external authority outside of Scripture to believe it, or outside of any authority, always have to be confirmed by an external authority, then the church should have to be confirmed by an external authority. And you quickly realize that in the Roman Catholic world, the church is self-authenticating. It doesn't need an external authority. And so you really have solo ecclesia versus sola scriptura at the end of the day.
Yeah, believe me, they really don't like when I use that terminology of sola ecclesia. But
no, I'm sure not.
But every time they argue against it, they prove my point, because it's rather simple. You ask them, who has the authority to determine the extent of Scripture? The church does. Who has the authority to infallibly interpret the content of Scripture? The church does. Then, who has the authority to determine what is and what is not sacred tradition? The church. And who has the infallible authority to interpret that sacred tradition? And it's the church. So how you can have the church under the authority of two things that she alone can determine the extent of and she alone can interpret, I can't begin to understand, and I don't think anybody has ever figured that out.
No, I don't either. I think what you have is clearly on a functional level, which is the key issue, on a functional level, that the church is the highest authority.
Yep.
Even if verbally they claim otherwise, I think it's clear that the church does function as a higher power.